If it was 1, then I would say fake. If it was 100, I wouldn't bother. If it was 200, I wouldn't bother. If it was 1,000 people involved, when is it a right time to buy Bitcoin? And my answer always has been, the fact is, millions of people own Bitcoin. How could so many people be wrong? And they're all, big fans of Bitcoin. How could so many people be wrong? So, welcome back, guys. Today I want to do a little video and I want to talk about something quite close to my heart. Bitcoin. I'm a big Bitcoin fan. I love Bitcoin. I love everything it does, what it stands for. And recently I've been getting a lot of people like talking about Bitcoin. I think like the Bitcoin news and everything is coming on, and like some people fresh, they're completely new, right? They're coming in and they want to get involved in Bitcoin and everything, and they're talking. So it's good. They're asking questions, which is really good, and I'm happy for them. So one of the things you have to understand is last couple of years, right? So I want to bring this up very good, right? So back in 2017 or early 2018, most people probably heard about it, but in 2017, everybody in the Bitcoin community or the cryptocurrency community knew that Bitcoin had reached $20,000. So whatever that may be in your country's currency, right? Reached $20,000. That was the highest it had ever been. And a lot of people got excited and everything, and a lot of people started to enter the market. Oh my God, Bitcoin's going to the moon, right? And the phrase we use, going to the moon, literally means like it's just gonna go to an infinite price or something, really high price. Anyway, so the situation, what happened was Bitcoin, a lot of the people who made a ton of money, right? And I'm talking a shit ton of money, excuse my language, but there was a lot of money. So at that time, you have to understand, back in 2017, beginning of 2017, we were still in the region of about 400 pounds. Sorry, I'm going to talk pounds now. So we were in about 400 pounds. And so for Bitcoin to go to around 17,000 pounds is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, right? So somebody's made about 16,500 pounds. And there are a few people that I know who have done, which is very good. So in 2018, well, after the sell-off, 2018, 2017 December to 2018 January, the price literally crashed, and it went to very low price, like I think about £2,500. I didn't track the price going down. I know it was roughly around that time, solely because I already exited. I didn't exit at 17, so yeah, don't worry, I didn't make that amount of money, but I did exit at an early time when I thought basically it's enough for me. I decided to exit. But what I'm trying to get to, right? So I'm trying to point something out here. So in 2017, during the price rally, when the price was going up, all sorts of media outlets, mainstream media, decided to point out and put it on the newspapers, and it was Bitcoin everywhere. It was Bitcoin everywhere. So everyone's getting the hype, right? It's a hype, proper hype. Now, during the hype, you've got two types of people. You've got a smart investor and you've got a dumb investor, a very dumb investor. So when something's hyping, a smart investor would follow the market, most probably will exit, because it's not the right time, right? Because when you got a hype, you're going to literally pump the whole thing. So it's being pumped, right, to a higher price. So you take a higher price, you take your profits. I did that. Take your profits and walk out, right? And then just wait for another day, basically, because it doesn't matter. You missed the bus, don't go running after it, okay? Then in 2017, after the $20,000 or the 17,000 pounds, the news died. Now that's what you have to see. The news literally died off. When the news died off, no one talked about Bitcoin anymore. Okay, so we've had the biggest crash. No one's talking about Bitcoin anymore. Bitcoin sits around £2,500 and fluctuates. It's like going down, whatever, right? So we've had this, like, it just kept on declining all the way to the lowest of about £2,500. I didn't re-enter until about £3,500, and I didn't re-enter until 2019. So this is why. So for almost just over a year, I didn't touch it. I've had enough. I didn't touch it, right? I'm just going to wait for it. Let the market kind of recoup the problems that it had. So we had all of 2019 where news didn't really talk about it, apart from like cryptocurrency news, right? But most mainstream media did not even talk about it. And then recently I've noticed a phenomenon, right? Oh, it's not a phenomenon, but recently I just noticed how some of the media outlets have started to, so I'm talking about newspapers and this and that. TV I haven't seen yet, because TV is usually the last. So remember, anytime you see something on the TV, trust me, it's old news, right? So the newspapers, some of the big names, I won't name any, they're not paying me for it, so why would I name them? Some of the big names out there have decided to put articles on it and little columns on it, basically. And I'm looking at them, and in fact I saw one which had a kind of a big little article on it, and it got interesting. And I said, okay, so now it's being hyped again, right? So that's the word we want to use, right? It's hype. Is it a good time for them to hype it? Absolutely. Is it a good time for someone to buy? Absolutely. Now, but the problem is most of these news, they're actually not hyping it in a positive way. They're hyping it in a negative way. So again, the concept of a smart investor and a dumb investor comes in. So it's on the news, we're talking about it, everyone's talking about it. Hey, Bitcoin's going back to the moon, or at least $20,000 again, right? So anybody who buys now knows they're going to make a ton of money. Problem to that is what people have to understand. So there's good news and there's bad news. Good news usually ends up being very bad. Okay, so we have a rule. So whenever you got news, you buy the news. Whatever you do, you buy that news. Now, good news or bad news, you buy that. But what you find is the human psychology. Most people, when they hear news, they know it's only bad news, right? Because all the media outlets always talk about bad news, and very few talk about good news. Well, regardless what the news is, you buy. So when you do that, the news, what you understand is like, okay, they're going to, like, big news out there, headlines, right? Let's get back to that. So I want to explain it a little bit more so you understand more, because I don't want to go all cryptic on you, which I am. So the situation is, currently on the headlines, we've got bad news. This country's decided to ban it. This country's going to punish you. This country's going to do this. This country's going to do that because of economic, issues and whatnot. Right? Bitcoin could potentially do X, Y, Z. So all of these kind of news are coming. Or Satoshi Nakamoto, the recent one. Satoshi just woke up. He just moved 50 Bitcoin. 50. This guy has had 1 million coins since 2009. 11 years ago, January 2009. He's had 1 million coins, and he decides to move 50. Seriously? And he's never moved them before. So you got to understand this, right? Why would I move 50 for if I want to move my coins? Because moving 1 or 1 million is the same. Now we know you moved it, right? So he's either playing games, or somebody's lying, or somebody's selling the news. In my opinion, somebody's selling the news. So a mass panic happens, because if Satoshi decides to dump 1 million coins, Bitcoin price could potentially go back to £1. I'm just being hypothetical, right? It could easily go back to £1. So when you've got a situation like this, everyone's panicking, and most people are just literally just offloading. So they're dumping their coins. They're like, right, okay, we don't want any part of this, right? Because obviously we're going to lose money. The smart investor comes in and says, well, that's exactly the news we want, because we're going to be buying. You're selling, you're pushing the price down, we're going to be buying. And when I'm in smart money, I'll tell you what smart money is, right? Smart money is not your average Joe. It's not me, right? I'm not a smart money, right? I'll tell you that, right? It's not your average Joe. It's the banks, the corporations, the institutions, right? The hedge funds, the big investment companies out there. Those are the guys who are picking it up. And that's what people don't see, because they mostly tend to stay under the radar until something is wrong, right? So when a big bank or a banking institution does it, it's going to be under the radar, okay? And there are many out there who are buying hundreds, if not thousands of coins on a regular basis. So we know this, right? And one of the most biggest coincidences I found, and I've been observing since 2017, every time the market crashed, the biggest buyers, so the biggest players who are buying, are banks, or the banking institutions that I like to call them. So these guys, somehow, every time a bad news comes out, they're ready, right? Obviously, they got billions or millions of dollars or pounds or whatever you want to call it, at their disposal. So they buy. And I've noticed this, but one thing I've also noticed, they don't sell. So that's something to think about. They don't sell. And one of the things, because I do conspiracy stuff and this and that, or look, people call it a conspiracy. It's impossible to be a conspiracy because I'm just myself. I'm not doing it with anybody. So yeah, whatever you're gonna call it, but I call everything else a conspiracy. And this is the biggest conspiracy, right? So these guys buy the news, and then what they do is they sell the rumor, right? They will always go ahead, and any bad news there is, and they'll observe the market, and they'll put billions out there, and they'll buy it. And then every now and then they will give some good news, and people start to jump in. Oh, there's some great news. Some governments just agreed. Some institution, whatever, right? They've just accepted it. It's become legal in some country, and this and that. Whenever that happens, you've got a big hype. Who do you think sell it to you during that big hype? Who do you think is selling the coins? It's the very same institutions that bought it for peanuts when they gave you a bad news. So you are non-stop exchanging money with them. So the banks are banking on you, literally, right? So, they buy from you for peanuts, so you've lost money. Someone somewhere has lost money, right? And then they sell it for whatever the price, when the price goes up, so they sell it. And again, you're the loser because you just bought it for that money. They haven't done anything, and they've made their money. Now, banks usually churn, right? And I'll use the word churn because that's what they're doing. They buy masses of Bitcoin, and then they sell them again for a very, very high price. And it's in circulation, so they're constantly making big margins. So as an investor, anybody who wants to invest in Bitcoin right now, my advice is very simple. Whatever you do, if you see some bad news, and you see more than 1, 2, 3 times of bad news, and you realize the market is now shifting towards a complete different direction. So what I mean by that is the market is now shifting and it's becoming lower and lower, where a lot of people are just dumping their stuff and just walking away with their cash. That's the right time to buy. All right, that's the right time to buy. I'll give you a good example of right time to buy. Big corporations out there, they don't put their eggs in one basket, right? So you gotta understand this, right? So they always have a financial advisor or financial somebody, right? Chief financial officer, right? So his job isn't just to manage the finances in the company. A lot of the time, his job is to also invest money for the company. So what this guys do basically, when you've got currently we've had a big pandemic, mega lockdown, whatever. These guys went in and they observed the stock markets, and what they noticed was, obviously, and it's not noticed. I mean, everyone's noticed it. Everyone knows about it, but no one's actually done anything about it. Is all the big airline companies, or all the big and small airline companies, all of them, the shares went down because people were just basically, there's no money coming in, so what's the point in leaving money there? They started dumping their shares, taking their cash out and walking away because there's no certainty when they're going to come back. They'd rather put that into some other kind of a company, i.e. Put it into vaccine companies and make money, because vaccine company shares were going up. So I'm not saying these guys are just cashing out because they shit their pants. No. They're cashing out because they know that something else in the market is going to become more valuable and is going to make them more money. So they pull it out from one stock and they put it into another. But that creates a big crash into that particular stock. So, for example, when it comes to airlines, when people decide to pull their money out of airlines, airlines lost money and the share prices dropped down. So when that kind of a situation happens, you know, of course they moved over to somewhere else. But now the share prices in wherever they moved up is being hyped up. Is it the right time for you to go in? Absolutely not, in my opinion. Absolutely not, right? Where should you be going? To the very same shares they left. So the airline companies, for example. So if I was you, I would leave I would now move over to the airline company because the share prices are low. And we know that once the airline companies start working again, because we're not going to be in this situation forever. I mean, you think we're going to be locked down forever? Absolutely not. Airplanes, everything are going to start running. And when they do, what will happen is the share prices will start going back up because people are now going to come in. And then another thing happens as well. So all these vaccine companies, they're making, right now, they're like churning billions, right? If those vaccine companies do not produce a vaccine, or if one of those companies come up with it, so it's a gamble, right? So you got like, say, I'm going to give you an example. You got 10 companies producing a vaccine, right? And all 10 of them have their shares open. So you go and buy shares. Now you might buy in 3 and not the other 7, and someone else might do the same. What happens is one of those companies will be producing the vaccine, will be the winner, right? So whoever's with that company, his money's good. Whoever hasn't, people are going to pull out, right? So people are going to pull out of those ones. And then the money moves again, right? So the money comes out of all the others, all the rubbish, and now moves over to something else. Or, for example, the government says, we don't need a vaccine. You know, we don't need a vaccine because the virus just died off itself. It's just dead. It's just gone. Back to zero. There's no coronavirus. What happens then is you get a situation where everyone's now losing money. So everyone pulls out money and they go back to whatever's normal. So transport systems and this and that, oil, you know, all of those kind of like stuff. They will go in and they will pump their money in there. So whoever bought it when everybody exited and waited for that time for everyone to exit and bought it at the lowest price, theoretically, if not as a fact, will make more money right now on those shares, because when the smart money, right, remember the smart money who moved out, when they come back in, they will be basically pumping this now. So because you were at the bottom of the pile when you entered, and now they've come in and the prices are going up, potentially you could make a nice decent amount of money just because of that money moving. And remember, the smart money is very powerful because it's big money, all right? So we might be playing with a couple of hundred, you know, some people maybe a couple of thousand if they could afford it. I doubt if anyone's playing a couple of 100,000, right? Because a lot of people won't take that kind of a gamble. However, big corporations out there, they've got that kind of money. So they would definitely play that kind of a game. So something I just wanted to point out. So let's go back to Bitcoin now, right? So with Bitcoin, we know that we've got negative news currently. Negative news means the price goes down, which means it's the absolute correct time to buy. But you're going to say, well, hold on, what if the price keeps on going down? So I entered at a particular price and the price went down. What do you do? Well, what you do is, remember I said, you never put your eggs in one basket. Well, we use the same kind of a method. Say, for example, you decided to invest £1,000. What I recommend is, when you think the market is the lowest, you now go in and you enter every week. You keep it consistent. You know, you say, right, once a week, I'm going to be entering regardless what the price is, and the price goes down. You buy £100 per week. So you've got £1,000. So you've got 10 buys, basically. So you're going to play this for the next 10 weeks. And 10 weeks is a long time, trust me, right? The market moves around and changes pattern every 4 weeks. But anyway, 10 weeks is a long time. So you've decided to do that. You know, you've gone in and you're now putting £100 every single time you enter. So you do that for 10 weeks and the price keeps on dropping. And I'm just going to make a theoretical number here, right? So I'm going to say the price originally was 1,000. So let's call it £1,000 per item, Bitcoin or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. So you've entered £100 when it was 1,000. You've entered £100 when it was 900. You've entered £100 when it was 800. You've entered £100 when it was 700, and so on and so forth, right? What you forget, what a lot of people like in the investment community, like not the main investment community, but the actually people who are quite new to it, what they forget is a very crucial fact. Is, say for example, we talk about Bitcoin. One Bitcoin is only worth one Bitcoin. It's always going to be worth one Bitcoin. So when the Bitcoin was 1,000, you paid 100, you bought 10%. But when the Bitcoin was 900 and you paid 100, did you still buy 10%? Well, no, I'm just going to roughly just say you bought 11%. So now, for £200, you got 21%. And so on and so forth, right? So if you keep on adding the percentages, right? What you'll notice is, you know, because the prices are going down, but you've been constantly buying, and it goes all the way down to 100. Now, your £1,000 at the time when the market was crashing now gives you more Bitcoin because you've been consistent, right? So consistency is the key. Now, a lot of the people don't really understand that concept. They're like, well, the price is going down, so how am I making money? Well, you're not making money. That's definitely for sure. You're definitely not making money. But you're definitely making or keeping or generating or whatever you want to call it, right? You're accumulating more Bitcoin. That's the key, right? That's the one that everyone misses. So, you know, when the market's trending down, it doesn't matter, like, because when trending up means you get less percentage, right? So that's not that profitable. Yeah, you accumulate some whatnot, right? You end up seeing some profit, but your percentages are in reverse. So what it means is, say today you bought 10% and the price goes up by 10%, and tomorrow you're only going to be able to buy, you know, about 9% or so and so forth. But it's in reverse when the market goes down, and that's the key. That's the one that everyone misses. You've got to buy more. So if I bought 10 times and each time I bought I got 1% more than the previous time, there's a lot, right? I could almost buy 2, you know, maybe 3, 4 for the same amount of money I was going to invest. And a lot of people don't understand this. So I'm not going to talk about 2, 3 because that's a lot, right? Bitcoin right now is a big price, but we're just giving you a rough estimate, right? But then when the price is at its lowest, right? So I'm the normal guy. Remember, we're the normal guy. We entered at 1,000 because we're normal, and it was at whatever price, and it came down to 1,000. We're the normal guys. But I've entered and I bought £100, £100, £100. The market played for 10 weeks, and the price went down to £100. So I've literally lost £900, right? Or the positive way to think about it, I've just made more Bitcoin than I originally would have. Okay. But who do you think will enter at the lowest when it's there? With their billions? The smart money. Guess what you just did now? You just outsmarted the smart money by you entering at that kind of a stagnant way. So you've gone in, you know, 10 times. They've entered at the price of 100. They rallied the price back up to 1,000. So it's back up to 1,000. But what does your original 1,000 now? What is your original 1,000 valued at? How much money have you actually made, right? So that's the key a lot of people don't understand, is how much money is it possible for you to actually make from this. If you do the percentage maths, so say for example you go all the way back to thing and you bought it for 100 or whatever, you can theoretically double your money just by playing with the smart money. So what I mean by with the smart money, I'm not saying playing with them as in like tag teaming them, no. You're playing with their emotions, because the investment market itself is all about emotions. Some people are very sentimental towards it, and some people are not, right? Which they normally refer to as bears and bulls, right? So a bull is one who loves it or will always support it and buy regardless what he wants the price to go up. He's a bull, right? And a bear is one that basically exits a lot. He's all about that small time profit. He's not about creating a market. He just wants to take his money and get out, right? So again, they're also known as market makers and market takers, right? So we leave that for another day. But more importantly, so we're talking about this now. You do the maths and you see you can technically double your money. And so think about this: in 10 weeks, you lost 900, but in another 10 weeks, your money is now in the same place. Do the maths and see how much money you pay. So in 20 weeks, right? And 20 weeks is not a long time. 20 weeks, right? It's less than 6 months, right? 26 weeks is 6 months. So 20 weeks is like what? 5 months. So in 5 months, you've doubled your money. Do you know any bank that does that? Do you know any stock that does that? Do you know anything that does that actually? I don't. I haven't found one yet. I have looked. Most of them turned out to be scams. But Bitcoin for me, yeah, hasn't been a scam. And if it is, it's yet to be proven. But I've played that method. And so far, I'm a happy guy. You know, I'm a happy guy. So yeah, it's very important that anybody who wants to invest in Bitcoin needs to really understand the concept, what it is, also understand the mathematics behind it, and really actually know Bitcoin itself. You know, a lot of people will give you history about what Bitcoin is, and I'll also give you one as well if you want. But we don't need any of that. We know Bitcoin's been around for some time now, and we know people are playing it, like, you know, buying and selling and whatnot. If it was one, then I would say fake. If it was 100, I wouldn't bother. If it was 200, I wouldn't bother. If it was 1,000 people involved in it, I wouldn't bother. You know? But the fact is, millions of people own Bitcoin. How could so many people be wrong? And they're all, you know, big fans of Bitcoin. How can so many people be wrong? So that's the very important message out there. It's like, you know, follow the masses, absolutely, but you've got to be very wise about what you want to do with it and how you want to do it. But I always say, follow the market, observe the market over a certain period of time, watch it, and once you've understood how the market works, decide. Now, I have been asked quite a few times, when is it a right time to buy Bitcoin? And my answer always has been, every single day. You can buy Bitcoin every single day, and there is no such thing as a wrong time. But, so I would like to drop a big but there. There is something that you have to understand is buying Bitcoin at any time doesn't really matter how you can buy. How long do you want to stay in Bitcoin is a question. So do you want to be in Bitcoin forever? Or are you doing it for a short-term gain? If you're doing it for a short-term gain, then my opinion is avoid it. Bitcoin is not good for you. All right, don't put your money in. But if you're willing to hold on for, say, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, all right? I always like 5 years. If you're willing to hold on for 5 years, then it's a whole different ball game. Magic just happens automatically. That's what you guys need to look at. So I'm not going to make this any longer. It's been 27 minutes. But yeah, guys, enjoy, like, subscribe, and yeah, I'll do a few more. So yeah, always comment or email me directly if you want something, if you want me to talk on something. Unlimited subjects, any subject you can think of, talk about. I don't care who it is, right, what it is. If I don't know it, I'll research it. Most of them you'll find I know. I can go right off the bat. I don't do scripts. I don't do none of that business. It's all in my head, right? So that's what the most important thing is. So yeah, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.